Welcome everyone to the session Future Focused Leadership for Schools and Universities. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. An important topic from the perspective of India moving forward, youth-driven economy, and how we are preparing our future. So welcome each one of you. So we have with us our session chair, Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, a dynamic leader with over 26 years of experience in research, teaching and training, and academic administration. She has been the extensive experience as an executive and life coach. She is an international affiliate of American Psychological Association and also the academic affiliate of Accreditation Council for Business Schools and Programs. In her current leadership as the Pro Vice Chancellor and Dean Academics of Amity University, Haryana, she has been involved in the strategic planning and leading the development and implementation of the university's academic and administrative processes. She has spearheaded many innovative initiatives like flexible credit system, industry-university integration, internationalization, and establishment of Center of Excellences, including Center for Brick Studies, Center for Robotics, and Center for STEM Research. Welcome to the session, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Tilok Singh Bist would be joining us soon. He is a national CBSE awardee principal of and is a principal of DPS Ghaziabad. Carries a weightage of around 32 years of experience. He is a master trainer, CBSE, and is a member of IPN. Next, we have Neha Singh ma'am with us. She is a passionate young educator and is the director at two schools, that is Sant Kabir and Siddharth in Haryana. She also spoke at TEDx event on the art of unjudging someone. Currently pursuing a program from Women Executive by IIM Calcutta, she is a peace ambassador and one of the advisors to the Non-Violence Project Foundation India. In her short career span, Ms. Singh has focused on inclusion in education, working with underprivileged children, setting up a pilot KPO run by visually impaired and teaching art to intellectually disabled children. She also trained teachers and school leaders on peace education and managing diversity in schools. Welcome to the session, ma'am. Next, we have Dr. Pawan Goyal, a senior consultant physician at City Hut Rewari and is the chairman of Mount Litera School Rewari. A compassionate physician and passionate educationist consistently contribute to create global citizens with strong Indian roots through Mount Litera School Rewari. A well-returned physician, he is a president of IMA Rewari, an entrepreneurial educationist with a vision to create futuristic education institution by judicious mix of curricular and co-curricular activities and application of modern technologies in the field of education. Welcome to the session, sir. Next, we have Ms. Ramanpreet Kaur, who is a principal at RPS Daruvera, a meticulous educational professional with over 12 years of hands-on experience in teaching, organizing teacher, curricula, and administration. A result-oriented, decisive leader to maintain high-quality standards to meet challenges of this fast-paced world. Welcome to the session, Kaur ma'am. And finally, we have Dr. Nandita Kathuria, who is a principal at Euro International School, Sector 10 branch, Gurugram. A strong researcher having many publications on her side, she has reviewed many projects also. Carrying more than a decade of experience with her, she has a vast experience in managing administrative positions in her previous assignments. Welcome to the sessions, ma'am, to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Tilok sir and Ramanpreet ma'am has also joined. So to initiate, I would like to request for an opening remarks by our session chair, Professor Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, to initiate the discussion, please. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachin Juneja. And it gives me enough, today, in the month of March, I'm also looking at another new phase of the new way the education is going to unfold in this next year, academic year at the K-12 schools. So it is a great privilege and honor to be part of this forum, along with the distinguished, principals, directors, educationists, who are leading the K-12 schools. So my applause to each one of you for handling such a, traumatic, life-changing year behind 2020. We will never forget in our lives. It has been quite a roller coaster ride, not only of the census index, but also the way it has changed our lives. And interestingly, there is always a coin has two sides. So while we have witnessed so much of troubled times, we've also seen a lot of opportunities, lot of tech initiatives, lot of changes that has happened, lot of leadership pull and push that has come in during these times. So we are looking at a new India. We are looking at a new educational platform. And to me, my imagination goes where I'm looking at a seamless integration from K-12 schools to the universities. And I would like to again, welcome each one of you on behalf of Amity University, Haryana, because we are constantly, we are quite aware that there is a need for the youth of our nation to do well. One of the thrust areas, of course, that we are looking at is, of course, we have seen a huge change in the way technology has come into our lives. And it has a good side and it has a tough side. So one, definitely, if you look at a little bit of emphasis on the new education policy, we can see that the government policies have opened up in a way that it has brought in a lot of flexibility into the way students can become better learners, or we are looking at lifelong learning. So I am really looking at that, tomorrow's the children or the students of the K-12 schools, they need to have that bent of mind where they not only have a scientific thinking, not only are they have to be keen learners, but they also have to be very enterprising. They themselves have to be change agent. So what can we really provide within the academic environment, within the schools, that will help them? So we are definitely talking about a technology enabled environment, but the fulcrum lies in the fact that you need teachers who are well suited for the role, where they can give a direction, the way they are teaching in the classroom. So I see a lot of change in the way teacher training will undergo now. So we are not only looking at one aspect of how they do rote learning and get through the grades, but how do they use their learning and the way the fast change of competencies and skills are required in the industry. So tomorrow, when they come to the university, they need to unlearn a lot of things and start designing new products. So a very innovative thinking process. It's like learning one software. Once you learn the software, it's very easy to learn another new software. So you need to build those building blocks where there needs to be an area for intuitive learning. There is a need to bring in, industry into the classroom, even in the school. So for example, whether it is your practical lab, whether there are your some kind of an incubators or entrepreneurial, exposure that can be given to the students so that, they are able to learn on real time what is going into the industry and what they will see in the future. So I think this is the kind of thought I want to leave you with for today, that what kind of roadmap are we setting out in schools so that not only are your students coming out as winners by getting good grades and getting into good university, how are they going to become change agents? How are they going to innovate? Nowadays, you don't need to reach an age of 25 or 30 in order to start creating. So we are having very early age students who are already starting their own companies. So some way we need to really look at that. And I want to leave my last thoughts on the fact that I'm very keenly interested in this area of the global goals that we talk about, the SDGs, the Sustainable Developmental Goals. So I would want your attention into the fact that the SDG 4 or it's parts of SDG 5, which is talking about the disability and the gender aspect to it. SDG 4 primarily talking about education and how it is education for all. And we are looking at that. So how are we in the schools using these SDGs to reach up to that goal? So we are looking at a new India, young India, a more vibrant India, and India which is not only being known for services, but also for products. And finally, how do you have the mental state of such students? So I think the well-being, the importance of mental health, as well as the, understanding of their capabilities are going to be important. So in your capability and competencies, bringing in the behavioral competencies of students will make them the future leaders. So with these words, I think these were some of my thoughts that I shared with this great team here who are here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was an enlightening thoughts for all of us to take the discussion carry forward. And over to Trilok sir, taking the discussion forward, would like to have your views about, to start with, about NAP changes and its implementation aspect. So what are your comments on it?
First of all, very good afternoon to each one on board right now. Padmakali ma'am, you have really set the ball rolling. What you have spoken is a gist of all that we are going to discuss today. Thank you, Sachin, for having me on board today. Let me tell you, dear friends, I believe, at present, our parents are giving 15 years to the school. And what is the expectation that out of these 15 years, what is the expectation? It's just the child goes to the school, studies, and works for the college admissions, right? And the present day life should be much beyond the school, actually, we should not be only thinking of the rote learning which was happening up till now. I was in discussion with a parent today. He was just there was an admission, actually the child was telling me machli jal ki rani thi, the rote learn things, all that. I really don't want children to do the rote learning anymore. We need to create an inquiry based student led education where the child takes the responsibility of his own learning. We don't have to feed the child. If you want to feed a child, don't feed a child with a fish. You must have read that there's a very old adage: don't give a fish to a child to feed. If you really want to feed, tell him how to fish the fish on his own. I think the skills have to be developed. And when we talk about the skills, it can be very wide variety of skills altogether. Today, academics is not something which is going to be the center stage in all the schools. We really want, up to class 12, we did not take a good attention of the children. We were just bothered about a result. Every school after the result putting on the newspapers, I have the topper, my school is a topper, this. 30%, 20% children who are doing very well are showcased everywhere. What about those children who have not scored very well? 55%, 45%, some are failed also. We don't even talk about that. That inclusiveness is something which the NEP talks about. We need to have diversity in the classroom and inclusiveness in the classroom. If we do not have that, if you really talk about NEP, everybody is talking about the basic facts about it, but they're not talking about the, inclusive school, diversified schools, gender inclusive school. The third gender never gets admission. Everybody has apprehension giving the admission. So we have to treat all the people as human beings, and that is what the NEP is coming up with. If you really look at it, you'll find besides the gender, this thing, the CWS, that is children with the special needs, also need to be, I'm telling you an example. Almost 14 years back, there was a child, his name is Arush Bhatt. I'm giving an example because when you talk about the anecdotes from your personal life, it really makes an impact on the others. There's a boy called Arush Bhatt, and he was, he was having 100% visual impairity. He was visually impaired child. He went to 95 schools of NCR. Went to almost Delhi, NCR, every school, could not get the admission anywhere. The child came to us. At that time, the principal was Mrs. Kalpana Kapoor in our school. And she just looked at the child. Child was very good to talk to. It was his brain faculty, everything was working very well. Only thing was that he was not able to see anything. She took it up as a challenge. And that is the day when they started the DPS Vasundhara as the inclusive school. Today, we have around 25, 30 children who are disabled. They are specially abled. They are the children with the special needs. And we have special educators in the school.
Right.
This boy is now in 11th. Last year, this boy was selected. There were only 50 students from all over the world who were taken on the US government scholarship to NASA. And this boy cleared that scholarship and he went there. For 20 days, he was in NASA. They were given the virtual experience, how it feels when you go into the space. He had experience. When he came back, he was a changed personality. Today, he has his own, he's a YouTuber. He's earning a lot of money from his YouTube also. If you want to see him, you just write on Arush Bhatt on the Google YouTube. You'll get to see how he's giving, how wonderfully he speaks. Nobody can make
That's
out
right.
that he's visually impaired. What I'm
Right.
saying is inclusiveness and helping out these children is going to be a very, very important aspect of our education today. If we really
Right.
talk about the new education policy, also talks about one thing which nobody has talked up till now in any of the seminars, in any of the workshops, is about the Parak. I hope you all are, the people who are on board, they must have heard about Parak. Parak is nothing but the performance assessment, review, and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. And this is something new which is coming up. The old age yardstick of measuring the assessment of the child, asking everyone to do the same task. We are not looking at the diversity in the class. That has to be taken into account. And we are working at DPSDV, and I'm sure I've taken a lot of sessions with the Indian Principals Network also with 800, 900 people. I've taken a lot of sessions with CBSE. Yesterday, just now also before this, I was working on CBSE. I just told Shashi that I'm just finishing it up, I'm coming here. So we are working. If you really look at it, the whole nation is working towards this, that we bring our new dimensions to the learning for the children so that that learning, which was rote learning, is totally wiped off from our system altogether. Children
Right.
should understand it somehow. One more thing I'll say, Sachin, uh, you know, up to class 12, we could not do much, but in the higher education, the university level, because I know I've been a student and I've seen that, in the higher education level, suddenly after 15 years, children were getting a little bit of what the practical life is all about. They were learning how to deal with the things. If you talk about IITs, you talk about the other engineering colleges, you talk about the medical colleges, especially the schools and colleges which have been forward looking, who are actually wanting the children to understand and have a hands-on experience of what is to be done. What we are talking today, the higher education was in a different format, was using that already. But now with the NEP coming in the force, I'm sure we'll have a lot of liberty for the children to choose amongst the subject. That is the liberal sciences, liberal arts, or liberal education will really liberate the children, because we do not know what kind of careers are in store for the children in the future. We have to have a futuristic education system for the children, and we really don't know what kind of careers will be there for the children after 5 years from now. So with this, I just close down my thought process here. I think I've already spoken a lot more than what the time was given to me. I could see a lot of, twice there was an interception from Sachin. It means I've overshot the time. But yet, if I have to speak about the NEP, I
No,
can
it's okay, sir.
keep on going, speaking and speaking about it, and how it benefits the children. Thank you
Perfect.
so much.
No,
Lovely
I
Thank
think
you.
meeting
it's
you.
it was lovely. I think it's important, but definitely because we have a little less time. But otherwise, all that you have spoken, I think, is so important. I mean, it is very
Thank you.
close to
Thank
our
you.
heart, even at the higher education platform. Excellent.
I know that, ma'am, you're running short of time. So before you leave out, I would like to have one question from you, because the work that you've been doing majorly into entrepreneurship and all, but majorly we feel entrepreneurship is still at the nascent stage in the universities, and in the schools it's almost nil. So how we should take it forward so that, the topic that we are focusing on, future focused leadership, this can be really addressed at the school levels and at the university levels to create that kind of professionals that India now requires. So your thoughts, please.
Yes, I think it's a good question to ask. While we are, unfolding new areas, it all starts from an idea. Because if you look at the entrepreneurial spirit, the part that we look at post successful entrepreneur is we see a series of wins. But the main seed that can be sown especially in the school is how do they, ideate. So a bit of design thinking, creative workshops by students where they understand. The second aspect to entrepreneurship is also knowledge. So unless you know what's going on in the world, you will not be able to think how differently you can do things. So somewhere you need to build functional knowledge areas. So be it in the area of science or liberal arts or psychology or economics, whichever area, or looking at the social problems. And just to give you an example, last year, 2020, so many fintech, edutech companies came out. Why? And most of them have been young college graduates who started up. So what happens is sometimes it is also need based, that what is the global requirement? What is the country's requirement? So where are the gaps? So as an entrepreneurial mindset, you need to definitely take a little bit of risk. So I would say the training of students on risk taking, what creative workshops, helping them to ideate through design thinking, helping them to take up small projects by the industry where they have given a problem to solve and they come out with something novel. So these are some of the, very simple but very useful steps. And of course, as we say, that you connect with the experts. So for example, you can bring in experts who are able to train them in that scientific manner. I mentioned about intuitive learning. So every entrepreneur today needs that intuitive learning spirit. And finally, you need to have that, apart from your IQ and, other emotional well-being, you need to have your optimistic quotient, which is your optimistic intelligence. So training the students in that area would be very beneficial. And I'm sure the schools, together with the universities, can create a very beautiful ecosystem where students who can work on small projects along with senior students from the universities. I think the day we are able to create that, we will see a surge of such ideas coming up. Government policies have opened up. So I think government is ready to work. Bringing corporates into the classrooms is important, not only at the university level, but also in the school level to inspire the students. And looking at I would also say that reading and we are forgetting to look at the success stories or the stories where people have lost. So it is important to go back and see how was Steve Jobs made? How did, Jack Ma came up? What were the, problems they faced? How did in the social entrepreneurship side also, how are people successful? How people are not? How different countries behave differently? India being such a young nation, this is going to be a very important area within the schools. So thank you very much. Thank you. You're muted, Sachin.
So aptly mentioned, ma'am, about the youth-driven economy. Really appreciate your thoughts, ma'am, on it. Further to Neha, ma'am, my question to you is about the professional development of teachers. Now, this has been an area of concern most of the time. So, sometimes we have seen primary and secondary teacher both are attending the same kind of training. So how you would like to address this aspect? Because if we don't have good teachers, that's what one of the feel is, how we will have a good India on the students and youth and all. Your comments, ma'am.
Right. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Trilok, sir. Thank you for sharing all those enlightening things that you just shared. And yes, sir, I've been thinking about this, and I've actually been very active in this area personally. We always talk about learning outcomes for children, and sometimes even to, like sir said, bringing it down and breaking it down to the age-old rote learning and focusing only on the end of the year exam and the percentage that you get. Even if we talk about inculcating entrepreneurial skills, even if we talk about giving life skills to children, training them in the 21st century skills, creativity, and all of that, it all comes down to the delivery mechanism. And your question stands in very relevant here because the ones delivering it in the class are the teachers. So instead of, in my opinion, how we do it in our schools is, before bringing in anything to the students, teachers are to be trained as students themselves in that particular area. So, for example, if you're talking about gender sensitization, before actually going down to the students, teachers should get together and have a refresher class or a training as to how to address these issues, because there may be their own roadblocks, their own mental blocks towards addressing any kind of issue that comes up. We also have to keep in mind that the teachers today have been trained into the age-old education system, and they may or may not be prepared for the classrooms of today. Like the past year, it was more of a steeplechase for almost all schools across India, be it a government school or a CBSE or a CISE affiliated one, whichever schools. I mean, globally it was like that. People who are by nature tech savvy or in their personal lives had an inclination towards using technology and the Googles and the Meets and the works were able to adapt very easily to the new changing systems and mechanisms of deliveries in the classrooms. But it actually became a challenge for people who are only limited to say forwarding WhatsApp good morning messages in the family groups. So we also need to lay down a mechanism, lay down a training portfolio for teachers beyond our B.Eds and the D.Eds. Just the fact that a diploma in education exists, and a child who's like 17 years old and has just done a class 12 is able to do that and come and teach in a class nursery. Of course, the new education policy is going to change that. It's concerning for people like you and us, people like us who are sitting here and deliberating over where the future ready schools would be or future ready universities would be. I think we need to make the entire the process of becoming a teacher far more rigorous, and also it needs to be followed up with future ready courses for teachers to take in at various points of their lives. So a teacher coming in nursery class or teaching the elementary, the foundational classes has to do a lot more work than a teacher teaching in, say, in the senior classes, because there in the senior classes, it's the subject expertise and not the behavioral aspects that you're dealing with. In a class that is very junior, children come in with a lot of anxiety because of the separation that has happened from the parents, and the teacher not only has to build a working relationship with the child, it also needs to become a caretaker, so to speak. So I think a lot of training needs to go into the junior classes, and a different kind of training needs to go in the senior classes, and it also needs to be very well suited to where the world is migrating. Ma'am very correctly mentioned that we're a nation of young people coming in, and the largest chunk of population anywhere in the world right now is in the Indian schools. We're going to be the biggest democracy, and we have the biggest demographic quotient coming in the next 5, 6, 7 years. And all of them are with us in the schools. So the onus lies on us as school leaders. The onus lies on institutions like Amity University to design the courses in a way that it bridges the gaps that are already visible in the competency of teachers that we're dealing with today. Teachers today need to be efficient. Teachers today need to embody the entrepreneurial spirit. Teachers today need to have all of those skills and also have the pedagogical know-how of transferring those skills into classrooms. Those are the need-based things. How we do it, I can quote few examples, and I would be very happy to share them with Trilok sir here as well. We do something called peace trainings. These are all about how to manage conflicts and how to resolve conflicts. So the first lap of training that we did was not directly with the students, but it was with the teachers. And we had some really beautiful experiences coming out of those trainings where teachers, learn to handle conflicts by themselves in their own lives. Because a classroom is actually a reflection of what a teacher is. A teacher specifically in India comes in with a loads of baggage from the homes. Teachers in India mostly are not teachers by choice, but they're teachers by situation. They're situational teachers, and they come in. I like to call it that they are here in waiting. So young girls waiting to get married, they come into teaching professions. Young girls married, waiting to start families, they come into teaching, and so on and so forth. I'm sure Trilok sir has experienced it all. There are teachers who have young children going into the same school and they're teaching the other classes. So the entire narrative of the kind of teachers we have needs to change. Of course, it is going to take a lot of policy decisions and government interference to build up the courses at the entry level. But as school teachers, as school leaders, we can definitely bring in a lot of training materials and
Right.
for to enable them to bridge these gaps. And it is possible. We've proved it this entire last year. So
That's
I'll just leave you there. Right.
sure. That's so rightly mentioned about how teaching process start actually in India, and this is something needs to be taken care very seriously. Dr. Pawan, I have a question for you as the follow-up question. As a leader, what challenges you foresee, to bring this desired outcome of managing students and bringing up the their personality as a holistic development. So your voice is not coming. Hello. No, sir. Yeah, I think there is a lead problem. Please unmute. IT, please unmute him.
Hello.
Yeah, better, sir. Better. Please.
Now I'm audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes. Thanks for inviting me, first of all. Basically, you have a very, very good question. In India, we have definite problems while getting good outcomes. And the first problem we face as a school manager or school leader, they are the regulators problem. Because in India, regulators cause a lot of problems, and while managing all those regulatory issues, our the primary aim of providing quality education sits at the back burner. That is the biggest challenge I think all of us are facing day in and day out. And the second big challenge is our teachers recruitment, because as Neha Singh ma'am has already mentioned that most of the teachers are not teachers by choice. They are teachers either by compulsion or by exclusion. So to get a good quality teacher and to train them to adapt to the futuristic educational pattern, it is really a daunting task for all the school leaders. And definitely it is mandatory to unlearn to learn, because the way they have learned in their childhood, the way they have learned in their students' life, it is going to be difficult to carry on with the same pedagogy or same teaching learning method. It has to be totally different to cater to the needs of the children who are having a futuristic mindset. So unlearn to learn is my, you can say, it's my view, which is forwarded to my teachers in my school. And definitely we need very, very good teachers training sessions. And definitely the universities like MIT universities can provide such type of teachers training programs to our teachers of various schools. And definitely we have in-house teachers training programs too, and CBSE is also offering us some of the teachers training programs, but definitely we need more of teachers training programs. The third challenge we face is the inertia at the social level, because in our society, the parents have a set mindset, and that fixed mindset of either my son is a teacher, is an engineer or a doctor, or he is a failure. So they have to change their mindset to the emerging new vistas of vocational education, new vistas of you can say opportunities which are knocking at our door. So we have to break that inertia in the parents' minds too, so that they can think differently and think futuristically to adapt to newer opportunities. And like in our students' time, we used to have 10 plus 2 plus 3 system. After 15 years of education, we used to think where to go next. And now with the new education policy on board, probably they have started some new thinkings, and they have given certificate course, diploma course, degree courses, and they have abolished MPhil. So now the children can break their education. Now they can find out other opportunities for their vocational career, and so on and so forth. So, and some short-term courses can be availed, and new technology has offered us an opportunity to take our courses, short-term courses, even at the best universities of the world. We can have 6 months courses, 12-month courses, or 6 weeks courses, which makes our students really career orientation courses, and they can give our students very good career opportunities even only after 6 months of that course. So we have to train our students also, and their parents also, to learn what are the futures of education, and how to embrace that change. And that would be my message for today.
That's rightly mentioned, sir. In fact, this having the courses at the school level, vocational one, it's surely going to have some impact. Over to Nandita, ma'am. Can you please open up your camera, please?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, perfect. So back to basic question. That given an opportunity you to revamp even or further value add to national education policy, what is the two, three things you would like to add or remove, which can create this discussion carry forward? We can make it discussion carry forward.
Yeah, very first, a very good noon to all the fellow members. And at the onset, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Amity University. Before moving into the discussion, I would like to start with one quote, that is, the growth and development of the people is the highest calling of the leadership. So if given a chance, what would I like to add in NEP or new education policy in 2020? So education in India is a non-profit activity. So there are strong historical reasons for the view, our belief about what education has to be political compulsions to portray education as a nation building activity. I don't want to change, I don't want to add anything in NEP 2020, because according to me, it has covered all the major segments in curriculum. That is actually the requirement of the time. So the NEP 2020 stresses to increase the gross enrollment ratio and willing to try the stop and the dropouts, right? 3.5 new crore seats will be added to HEIS and center along with the states, and which will increase the 6% of the GDP. If I am talking about the skills raising of the teachers, yes, because this is the main part of this NEP 2020, teachers should be very much skilled. So as teachers are the backbone of the schools, teachers' education is an important program also, right? So to improve the quality of school education in this view of ongoing changes in the social, cultural, economic, and political environment, the drastic changes is required. Okay, in the teaching education also, so that teachers could raise the standards with the changing heads of the society.
Right.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right. That's rightly mentioned, ma'am. Ramanpreet, ma'am, taking this thoughts to be forward. Ramanpreet, ma'am. Yeah, great. Welcome, ma'am.
Yes, good
I
afternoon.
could not formally welcome you or that part of a time.
Thank you very much.
Great. Happy to see you. The question is around the
My
same.
pleasure.
Question is around the same. Rural India still needs to be handled in a very appropriate way. That's what I believe. So what do you think we, as a community or as a governmental initiative, what are your thoughts that rural education penetration takes the right sense, be it government or be it parents or be it teachers, we as acknowledged by the forum also, we lack teachers. That's my next question also, how to tackle that. But meanwhile, what are your thoughts, having the rural education penetration in the right sense?
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel, I don't know why when we talk about education, we divide into rural education or urban education. I think I'm strongly against, there are multiple boards existing in India. We have got state boards, we have got international boards, we have got national board, CBSE as we take an ICSE board. So therefore, therefore we divide education. Actually, education is not to be divided. We have to stand united when we are talking. We all say that education is the weapon to change the society. But how come we divide education into rural education or urban education? My idea about education is there should be one uniform board all across India, because of course NEP has come with great changes. But I somewhere lack that they should have given a thought over, multiple boards in India. And suppose if you have, one board, and then this, focusing on one or the other kind of education, if you're talking about rural or urban education, that won't exist, because in most of our rural areas, so-called rural areas, we have got government schools, state boards are there, and the teachers are there who are getting very good salaries. And, of course, they are very talented. They go through many phases of testing, and then they are finally appointed as government teachers, and they are reaching actually the rural India, all across India, but output is not there. Why output is not there? Because, that there is no standardization, there is no comparison. They compare with any state board will compare their own result. If it comes on a common platform, rural India has got more and more of skill. They just need a little push. Maybe they will be lacking in, language. And this NEP has given that, in primary years, the education is to be, promoted in the mother tongue. So that language part will also go. They have got high potential. We just need to tap them. We just need to give direction. We need to steer them. And I think it would be all, they will be proving better as compared to what we can say as urban children. Rather, urban children have got more distractions, They are very focused. They know actually the value of education. Only the education, the middle class, I feel, they know the value of education. A business class would never understand. They know that if they want to rise high in their life, and the people who have not got enough resources in their life, they actually know the value of education, because this education will only open their gateway to, what we could say as luxury, or we would say good living standards, good education. So I believe it's very unfair to, divide education. But of course, if, we come up with a common board, this rural education will give us new heights.
Follow-up question to you, Trilok sir, the same one. What are your thoughts on the same? Please unmute. Sir, please unmute. Yeah.
I'm saying government members very right. There should be no divide, but I'm going to divide it further.
but that's a reality, sir. In India, that's a reality that we have we are comprised of most of the villages. So on that note, how to frame up it further?
Sachin, actually, I'm talking about, ma'am was talking about the rural and urban India education as a divide. I'm talking about the government schools and the private schools divide as well.
Perfect.
Because we have 70% children are going to the government schools.
True.
Whether in the rural or the urban, 30% are only coming to the private schools, because we don't have that much of the infrastructure. So
That's right.
now there's a biggest problem is NEP may come up with wonderful ideas and all, but we are not coming with something pilot project kind of a thing, that we are piloting the education in a particular sector. We make some model schools in the government, in the private, in the rural area also. Rural and urban doesn't exist actually. What exists is the passionate teachers. The training of the teachers is going to be the biggest challenge for the NEP implementation. If you want to implement the NEP, how would you train those teachers who have been over the years, have been just killing their time in the schools? I'm talking about especially the government schools, which are in the remote areas where they're not even bothered about what is happening. I was in a remote area. I was in Palia Kalam. It's in the interior of Lakhimpur Kheri in UP. I was there for 6 years as a principal of Doon International School. I knew what we were doing, how difficult it was to make the people understand what studies are like. They didn't understand the weapon which ma'am was talking about. Education is the weapon to bring all the innovations in the country, but
Right.
who will take the first step forward? Because those teachers were not interested. There were 5 teachers and 2 children in a class, in a school, in fact, in the rurals. And then I could see there 20 students, 6 teachers, whereas in private school, there were 1,200 children and there were only 60, 50 teachers. The ratio used to be very, very disbalanced altogether. So
Right.
when you talk about the rural and the urban education, which you asked about, I must say, instead of rural urban, we have to train the teachers as a teacher as a resource all over the country. And if everybody has the same kind of exposure, I think slowly and gradually to change, but it has to be a 10 years phased manner. As NEP itself has said, by 2030, we want to have the complete implementation of NEP, because it's not going to be overnight. A magic wand you pick up and touch everything and everything starts changing into NEP system altogether. The implementation is not possible. If you really talk about, if we want to implement the NEP, we want to bring those 30 crore children into the education system. We need more than 15,000 schools and more than 5,000 universities. Where are we going to get the funds? Who is going to finance it? And if you have to do it every week, there has to be at least 3 new schools to be opening up. So if you really look at it, challenges are too many for the implementation. But yes, I must say, not only our school, but most of the private schools have already been taking a lot of ingredients from it. They've been already working on it, but it is the complete system has to change. For that, something has to be done, that the divide can be bridged down. We have to bridge the gap between the rural and urban and government and private schools. I think for that, we'll have to look for the solution. And if we have a proper platform where we can all talk for a little while more, have a discussion, interaction, debating, you know, if we are able to talk to each other, we'll learn from each other so much. I can see Neha was so wonderful with whatever she said and whatever Raman ma'am has said. I think all of them were very good. Dr. Pavan Goel, he had his own way of talking about the same thing. But you know what? We are all talking about the elephant, and we are all blindfolded. Somebody's saying it's like a tail of a elephant. Somebody is like a rope. Somebody's saying it's like a pillar. Somebody's saying it's like a chart. Somebody's saying it's like a snake. Whatever the part you are touching, you're talking about that. The NEP is so vast. Everybody who has touched on a particular point will
True.
talk about it. So we need to have a complete discussion on it, and it has to be at least 7 days PLDP. If you
Perfect.
want a change, the PLDPs has to be created. Every school must have the PLDPs. At least every 3 months, there should be a professional learning development programs. And if these PLDPs are there, slowly and gradually we'll be able to change the mindset of the teachers who are actually change makers. They are the agents of change. And we need to involve our children. Children
That's
have to
one.
be involved into it. I think I'll not speak more than this because I
No,
can
it's
see
okay. So,
all
in fact,
all
sir,
looking at
we do meeting minutes of the panel discussions, and we circulate it in a form of report to all the schools and other stakeholders, so that they can be aware of what the discussion is happening on in the market, in the industry, and people can be aware of it. I'll be sharing up this panel discussion report copy for all of you and other reference also. There are two inputs for you. The another input, Dr. Pavan, I
Sachin,
think.
one thing.
Yes, sir.
Sachin, can I come in for a minute? What
Yeah,
I'm
please.
saying is, if you can have, like, we are all principals and directors and chairmen and all, we are sitting here and talking, we are aware. We would want you to conduct a session for rural area teachers or teachers of different schools. Let them all be there and we can have a discussion with them. Get their
Okay.
viewpoint. They will know where the shoe pinches actually. We can only talk
Right.
about with our experiences, but what actually is happening, for that we can have a proper webinars for them. Yes, you're saying something, Sachin? Is there any network issue?
Over to Neha, ma'am. Now this maybe work it out to the sum up of all the queries that we all are having in the mind. I'll tell you the case study that in the South Korea and the Finland, top 10% our minds are being sent to educators. Now, just before this panel, I was doing my study, and I found this interesting one that top 10% of the minds of these countries are being sent to being an educators, like the professionals like you. But in India, we have a system like HTAT, CTAT, and that clears. And then, as you mentioned, it does not become by choice. It is something that they have to make it just before the marriage and like this. So what is your thought process? How to choose or allow someone to be a great teacher or to be a teacher even? What is your thought?
So first of all, I think it has a lot to do with the kind of societies we come from. The people in South Korea, there rarely any strikes. It's that kind of setup there. Also, the kind of system they have to pick up teachers, it's rigorous. It's rigorous like anything. You have to have at least a master's degree to be able to pursue the professional teaching, course. Even after that, the percentage ratio, the ratio that the teachers actually are appointed is very low. So it's best of the best, filtering out and then, coming on to a system wherein education is completely free for the first 12 years of life, and it is state funded. So that is the kind of society, that is the kind of administrative systems we're trying to compare our country with. Finland's education system recently is being talked about a lot. There have been multiple comparisons and all kinds of reports. We also have to understand that Finnish families are designed in a very, the family values are very different there. There was a research that we studied for a case study. When people, they're talking about education, they don't go and talk to teachers, they don't go and talk to students. They go and reach out to parents, specifically in Finland.
Right.
Parents generally, they do not have a way of punishing children. They set up examples. They talk about the ideals they wish to inculcate in the children in form of stories. So that is the kind of society we're talking about. The education system is completely funded by school and all of that. Having said that, they're doing wonderful jobs, and that is, of course, aspirational for a country with demographics like ours. It is absolutely, absolutely aspirational to come to a point where best of the minds in the country will be in the teaching faculty. We as a nation, if we go back in history, even before becoming India as it is now, we had a tradition where gurus were, very well respected. Teaching and learning at that point of time was not a transaction. It was an idealistic way of living. It was something that had to be honored. Over the years, I think we've lost that dignity we attribute to the profession of teaching. It is no longer a way of life. It has become highly, highly professional. And even with it becoming professional, it is not competitive and cutting edge like the jobs we have in corporates. So in circling back to it, again, the filtration system for somebody, to be able to go and teach in a school, even at the fundamental classes level, even the elementary classes level, needs to be very, very rigorous. The kind of B.Ed programs that we have, that is the highest level of teaching programs we have for entry level exams. Of course, there are PhDs in the works. It needs to be revamped. It needs to be redesigned in the wake of the kind of challenges world sees now. The world is not very competitive now. The ideals have changed with the onset of 21st century. We're talking about collaboration. And it should come very naturally to us because India is such a diverse fabric of people coming in from, literally all over the world with all kinds of backgrounds. The cities that we see, the metro cities, their culmination, their melting points of culture for all kinds of people coming in from rural areas, from small towns, even from countries, across the world. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration while designing a course that goes in for a person who's going to teach the children who are, going to be your future citizens.
Right.
You also need to take into account that all of the people that training now, I'm circling back to the point from the previous discussions we were having. They also are a product of the 90s teaching systems that were in place. All of that needs to change. All of that, ICT, instead of being one small module in the entire B.Ed program, needs to be the basis for them to understand how technology is shaping up. Trilok sir rightly said the kind of jobs that are coming up will not, we don't have an idea. 5 years ago, who knew YouTubing could actually be a job? People could actually pursue it, and it could be aspirational for so many people. And see, it is also breaking down boundaries. So we are to prepare for a world that has lesser boundaries. We have to prepare for a world that is chiefly technology driven. We also have to prepare for a world that is collaborative, because it is now important for all of us to come together in our own local self to make a one global kind of entity of people contributing all over. For that, our teachers need to be the ones who should benefit firsthand from all kinds of researches that is coming in from psychology, all of our metacognition studies coming into studying, studying of how to become a teacher. All kinds of technological, Elon Musk, I think, those are the kind of people we need to look up to and bring in those teachings into the curricula that we create for our teachers back home. I think when we do that, probably is when we can, probably compare ourselves to the best of the teaching faculties across the world. And having said that, majority, the Korean teaching system we've been talking about, that was your question, that why the top 10 performing people, the top 10 intelligent, the cream of the South Korean population goes into teaching. Actually, it is a lot of Indian people who have gone abroad and they're teaching in South Korea. So we're doing something somewhere wrong. Of course, it is a steeplechase. Of course, it is a lot of hurdles that our marathoners, the teachers, they have to run to actually get to the point. Right. We are doing a wonderful job. If only we could support them with everything that is going around in the world. Personality development, science, and all of that. So that's how I see it.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Running a little short of time. So quickly we'll move to Dr. Pawan, and then I'll come to Dr. Nandita. Dr. Pawan, there is quick comment I needs from you. That's an important question. I don't want to leave it. Entrepreneurship, no, you yourself is an entrepreneur, and I believe should be done something about entrepreneurship or creating at least that thought in the student's mind. Dr. Pawan, are you with me?
Yes, Sachin.
Yeah. So my question is around this only, that how to create that entrepreneurship culture. Maybe in quick comments, maybe in 1 minute, if you'd like to share something on this, I believe it's an important one question.
Yeah, the most important thing to develop in our children's mind is to develop, ask them to have some new ideas and to promote the culture of questioning. I was reading, going through a book, what did you ask in your school today? So that type of teachers we have to create, that they promote ideas in their children's mind, and they must ask their students to ask many more questions, because these days we don't require copybook type of teaching, because knowledge is spread all across the world, and we have just to put only 3 keywords on Google to find any of the content. So what we have to do, we have to develop the curiosity in the child's mind, and if we can bring that knowledge to that child's mind and that curiosity, that ideation, then definitely we can create good entrepreneurs out of those children, and schools can be the breeding ground for that. And we can develop certain labs, interactive labs in our schools, which can help in creating a good fertile ground for ideas to develop in the children. And definitely those labs can be the first entrepreneurial expertise for the students and the children and our teachers can be the mentors for these enterprising students to bring out the change we want in those children. Thank you.
So rightly mentioned, sir. Over to Nandita, ma'am. As a part of maybe we are just running time, right out of time. Professional development of teachers. What is your thought process? If you like to sum up, please unmute.
If I am talking about the professional development of the teachers, so I must go with the human to technology collaboration.
Right.
Fine. If suppose it is accordingly done and it is done in a very perfectly manner, then yes, there will be a development in the skills of the teachers, as well as there must be a paradigm shift in learning and teaching approach, because this is the demand of current era. Right. One thing more I need to tell that there must be a continuous development or innovation in the skills of the teachers, and that can be done by the training process only. So we have to give training to our teachers time to time, whether in the time period of 15 days or a month, 1 month, as per the requirements, to groom in a better manner.
That's right. On a closing remarks, I would be asking this question, and I would request if you can answer it in only in one word. So I'll go back to the session topic. So it's a future focused leadership for schools and universities. Starting with Trilok sir, your one word, which we can sum up as a session part.
Innovative education.
Innovative education, right? Neha ma'am, over to you.
I will have to say resilience.
Sorry?
Resilience.
Resilience. Very nice. Very nice.
Bouncing back. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Dr. Pawan and Dr. Pawan, you there? Okay, maybe some network issue. Dr. Nandita.
Innovation. Innovation and skills. Yes, innovation and skills.
That's right. So innovation and skills, innovative education has become the buzzwords, in fact, and we all should look forward to ensure that the right set of skills and all this innovative pedagogy through NEP and other through the stalwarts like you should be able to implement. Dr. Pawan sir, you were there. So if you can share your minutes, one word. One word as on the topic part.
It should be unlearn to learn.
Very nice. So unlearn to learn is the mantra given by Dr. Pawan. Thank you so much, our esteemed panelist, Dr. Padmakali ma'am, Neha ma'am, Trilok sir, Dr. Pawan, Nandita ma'am, Dr. Nandita, for joining us in today's session. There is a small announcement I would like to share, that there is one gap that we also identified, that the school counselors and the senior teachers, because parents do connect with them, and of course students are so much worried about their career aspect, and they connect with them to get an understanding, what their future lies and what are the course options that they can choose for. So for that, to address this issue, we are doing a mega workshop on 31st of March, and it will be a 2 hours workshop where we will not talking about the generic vanilla courses like CA or MBBS and like that. That will be only a one slide session. But rest of the things we will be covering up about the emerging aspect of that particular field. So it will be science, it would be commerce, it could be humanities. So we will be covering up in that workshop about the emerging aspect of these streams, because this is what we feel, that then when teacher is talking to a student, the options are limited when they speak. So in this session, we are trying to cover this problem by making them aware of the different aspect of that stream has. So I would request, if we can get the nominations from your schools as well, it will be a great opportunity to have working again. Thank you so much, esteemed panelist, once again for joining us today. We will be sharing the report with all of you very soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Signing you off.